Hey guys, this is John here in Los Angeles with the Alpha Channel update for Thursday, October 3rd, 2024. And today's Yggdrasil card is cool. This is the box. And this is today's card, Sin Opportunity. Sin is synonymous with opportunity in the Norse Tarot deck. Now, I have a character named Cinder, spelled C-I-N-D-E-R, not like Cinderella, but more like a burning cinder. But this is not spelled that way, this is S-Y-N. Nice card. And today, this is really interesting. Part 2 of CYBERFROG BLOODHONEY. I counted the pages this morning after I read it. We noticed, you guys may remember, that the Conan comics from the 70s are only 17 pages an issue. Now they put this out every month without fail. This right here, I believe is, God, I've already forgotten, 19 pages? 3, let's do it again. 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 20 pages for part 1. 20 pages. That's significant. That's more than Marvel, and that's in one book. But part 2 is fucking awesome. Part 2 is great. Part 2 is the comic. Part 2 is the comic that Ethan had to do all this other work around to draw. Part 2 is all he really needed to draw. This was what he needed to do to advance the story, but everything else was necessary to give you this. I completely understand this. In order to write my second book, 700 pages of the most amazing science fiction you'll ever read, I had to write the first book. Also 700 pages of equally incredible science fiction. But I couldn't do that I couldn't do my second one without doing all that other work. And the same thing here. So today we're doing part 2. And just imagine this was the first CYBERFROG comic you ever read. Starting right here. This is Earth being invaded by some sort of alien life force that looks like a honeycomb, right? And there's some stuff going on. President Clinton is being interviewed about Monica Lewinsky live on air. Everyone's kind of tuned into that. In the Pine Barrens, there's this swamp, or creek, whatever. It's basically an open swamp. Now, okay, so I had a friend named Shell, and it's spelled just like this. It's a Danish name, and K-J-E-L-L, but I think I've heard Ethan say this is Kelsin. My friend's name was Shell, and he was a guy. He ran a speakeasy here in LA. He ran a few other things. He was a super cool guy. He had an art gallery for a while. Yeah, that was a great friendship. Check this out. That is a poster somewhere waiting to be scanned and sold. I want this on my wall. Oh, sorry. Interruption here. Look at this. Did I hold it upside down? No, I didn't. It's kind of actually, well, yeah. So this is, what is this, the third page? Third page, if this was its own comic, fifth page, right? So you get these two. This would be the cover. Right here, this would be like blah 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 splash page, or maybe this is the cover, I don't know. But you've got 2 pages of story, 2 more pages of story. So this is Kelsin becoming aware. The Vespis are here. This is still 1998. Look at that. Look at that. I want to know how long this took him, just out of like envious curiosity. I hope I'm not like, I know that I hope I'm not cutting it off because the camera is wider than it is tall. So yeah, this is still 1988. CYBERFROG meets up with Heather in their hangout, sort of an abandoned building that they chill in, and she's watching TV. She's watching President Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. And at first I thought, okay, this dates it really well. And then we have Salamandroid stick his head in through this abandoned building, and which is pretty cool. So Salamandroid has an emergency for CyberFrog. We know what the emergency is. Oh, by the way, look at the cover. I don't think I showed you guys this yet today. We know what this emergency is. It's the Vespis that have been creeping in, but now they have gone. This is the invasion. This is perfect comic book art. This is 28 pages. Part 2 is 28 fucking pages. I love that he has, it is cool that with a big book like this, he has the freedom to expand his page count. Whereas like a lot of those Conan books, the last 2 pages are 9 panels and 9 panels, and half of the important action happens right there, and you only get little images of it. Because John Buscema's rushed, the last 2 pages, he's got a lot of story to pack in there. But Ethan luckily has the freedom to do it the way he wants with, crowdfunding. He doesn't have to do 30 pages, 30 pages, 30 pages. So TV, you don't get that luxury. And I was thinking of, what kind of action show has been? I knew that there was one that had been a half hour. Not Dukes of Hazzard, A-Team, all that stuff from the 80s was, full hour. It was 44 minutes, really. Mr. In-Between out of Australia. Amazing show. You guys should watch that. That's all I'm going to say, because that's a whole thing on its own. Vespis attack these two who are having an argument about... This is interesting. Ethan still lives in a small town, and small towns throw shade on each other based on real estate property values. As kids growing up, I remember the small town I grew up in, we looked down on... This was not us kids. This was the attitudes of the adults that was permeated through the children. The towns closer to Chicago were more cool, and the towns further away were more hick. And small town mindset in America can be really disgusting, to say the least. So here these people are disgusting small town people, and they get attacked and eaten by the Vespis, and you don't feel sorry for them. You don't. You just don't. This girl runs. Someone tries to stop them. Rumblebee or CYBERFROG. Oh, Calcin tries to stop them. Right here. Rumblebee's later. Rumblebee is part of Scorpion's crew, and they're fighting. I guess in the 90s, that was CyberFrog's basic enemies list, like the suicide, not the Sinister Six. His Sinister Six was Scorpion and the others. And now it's coming out it's becoming obvious why there's such a problem, This is one of the things I wanted to talk about in this book. He's had to set this up. A lot of writing is a little bit like arranging a chess game. You're arranging your own chess game. To get those big Secret Wars poster shots where everyone's coming together and fighting all at once, and they all have emotional reasons to be there, that's not an easy thing to manipulate. It's not an easy thing to create. But it can be done with some attention to detail. Here's a really good example in a movie. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is my favorite example of this. It's what I call a braided storyline, and you end up with this big knot where all the threads come together towards the end, and you have the big shootout in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. That's a perfect movie. There's no romance. It's a perfect action movie, in my humble opinion. And it made Guy Ritchie's career. He's never topped it. Snatch is not as good. It's more famous because it has Brad and he takes his shirt off, but it's not as good as Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Here we get some awesome action scenes. This girl is really abused. That's terrible to see, but it happens. You need victims. I wanted to victimize an entire mall full of children. In Legend of the Overfiend, you see a bunch of kids chasing and eating cockroaches, I believe, and then they all get shot by a machine gun. So the Japanese have outdone all of us in terms of gory violence. But this is look at this is wall-to-wall action. After a couple pages, let's see how many pages we got before it really started kind of dinged a page there. Sorry. But yeah, how many pages? So we've got the invasion, pages of setup, right? 2, 4, Calcin in the swamp. And these are those two who get attacked later, being douchebags. CyberFrog, massive poster shot. Still not action though, 6 pages in out of 28. 28 pages. So think about this in minutes. Each page is a minute of a TV show. So if this is a half-hour episode, we're a couple minutes in, CyberFrog and Salamandroid are hanging out. This would be the first, before the commercials, the first commercial break. And here we get CyberFrog and Salamandroid comes into the house, and followed by the attack. We return from commercials, and the Vespis make their entrance, very bloody entrance, immediately killing people, ripping their heads off. I think this should be a cartoon. I think this would be best done as a cartoon, the same way they do DC and Marvel cartoons. Better than a movie, because you could do a whole series. And these days, who gives a fuck about the theater? It's the running time that counts. It's the running time that's important. If you get a series, that's 13 movies. If you get 13 episodes, that's 13 one-hour movies as far as I'm fucking concerned. That's way better than one movie. Fuck having George Clooney in your fucking show. That guy's going straight to video now anyhow. The day of big actors are over because it's no longer limited. It's no longer, a minute of screen time no longer costs $200,000. For all the people and everything, you can do it with your phone. So now everyone's a movie star. Look at the skateboarders. This whole team has YouTube channels and it's the best show on YouTube. The Comics Gate Kings, the whole Trash Cast, best show on YouTube. I watch a lumberjack out of Alberta, like Ontario somewhere. I'll watch him while I sit and draw or write or whatever the hell I'm doing. That's way better than all this needs to be is a cartoon series. It doesn't need to be a movie with actors. That's too much work. Well, maybe, yeah, it's too much work. I think it would be better as a cartoon. I think a cartoon would serve CyberFrog better. I think you could get famous actors to do the voices. Look at Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop is magnificent. If you could get close to that. I should hold this up longer. This is really good. So this is CyberFrog and Salamandroid get separated, and when they cut back to the president, I was like, why are we cutting to the president? And then it all made sense because this really brings it home and makes it real. Someone comes in and tells him, we're under attack, Mr. President. Cut the feed, cut the show. And so this is where it makes it real in sort of the real world. This was a smart move by Ethan. This was a nice touch. This was clever. I didn't see this coming. I was reading the panel and I didn't see the emotional impact coming of this second panel right here. Look at how his face is in shadow. So right here he's lit for television and here he's not. We see the perspective of the Secret Service agent. It immediately looks more real. It looks more grounded in reality because of the shading on the side of his face. You would never see that on television. On television he's lit perfectly all the time. But here you see the shadows. And the shadows are because of the invading Vespis. So I respect this. This is a big domino setup. This is an interesting chess game where everyone will watch the checkmate because it was so properly executed. He has a lot of moving parts that he was able to put together. Like, what's his name? The blue dude in Watchmen, And Vespis are a problem. Salamandroid and CyberFrog are fighting them. Kelsin is down, so they don't have access to... Because Kelsin, you could say, jumped the gun a little bit and didn't... Kelsin allowed herself to get attacked by the Vespis before CyberFrog and Salamandroid engaged them. And from what I understand, they need Kelsin to manifest like their Matrix powers. Like they have the ability to whip out guns and weapons and stuff. But they need their connection to Kelsin to do that. And because Kelsin tried to rescue this girl, who she wasn't able to rescue anyhow, CyberFrog and Salamandroid's superpowers are basically offline. That's what I came to understand. And so their first encounter with the Vespis leaves them so battered and bruised and bloody that they're 20 years out of service and the Vespis take over. The Vespis have 20 years free reign to cull the human race however they like before CYBERFROG and Salamandroid returns. So this is CYBERFROG descending into the water where he'll be safe. He like does this airbag thing where he, you know, puts these little bubbles around himself that are gonna basically, you know, keep him alive, help him hibernate. And I couldn't help, I had to skip ahead and see what happened. So we are gonna do the rest of this tomorrow, because basically what happens is CYBERFROG, while he's healing, the Vespis clean up, and then we get 20 years into, we get the jump 20 years into the future. So I could see this as 3 episodes, 3 cartoon episodes, and then you do Wrecked Planet as 3 cartoon episodes, you do Death Sting as another episode, you're at 7 right there. That's a season of animation. That's CYBERFROG season number 1. And whatever the new one, I know he's got a new one working on it right now, so that'll be beginning of season 2. Or it should be, it could be. That would be great. And yeah, this is brought to you by Legacy of Mad Scientist, Legend of Ashley Fox. I understand whereof he works. This is magnificent. He said, you know, a story can be worth $1 billion. I used to think this was a gold mine, just like worth a few million. This is $1 billion story. Comparing it to, I know this, and I know everything else that's out there, and now I know this too. I know entertainment. I know the entire spectrum of entertainment, everything that's been put out, everything that's been written. I know that this is my world, this is my wheelhouse, is being ahead of things. I don't like to be surprised by stories. This could be a series, easy. It's low budget, it's really easy. 30 Days of Night was genius, it was made to be a movie. Those kind of ideas don't come really easily. I have one I'm working on right now that's so flat that it's not even that, you know, the Modern Savages, the skateboarders thing. I have an idea for that where they go after some bad guys, but it's so plain 80s, it's not even high concept. It's not 30 Days of Night. It's nowhere near this. The problem with this is the same problem with this. This is expensive as fuck. To do this real life, you're talking about some CG shots CG shots, from what I understand, can run upwards of $20,000 to $50,000 per second of screen time. Some of them, you know. So the same thing with mine. It would be better to do it like the way they did Invader Zim, 3D and traditional animation. Traditional animation for the characters, 3D for the backgrounds and you know, hard objects. That would be the best way to do my stuff. It would be the most rewarding it would also be, here's the thing about it. I dream in cartoon. When I draw and I write, it's in cartoon. My head sees in cartoon. This is cartoon. This is cartoon. As realistic as Ethan is, I'm sorry, man, the colors are cartoon. This is Justice League, and there's nothing wrong with that. I wish there was a way to animate cross-hatching. There's not. So Shelby Robertson was working on a piece for animation where he was doing very little cross-hatching, and he was lighting it almost like Frank Miller's Sin City. And that's kind of how you need to light for animation. It's a different medium, and it holds light differently. This is why. This is CMYK. This is not, I'm spacing on the words now, but this is a subtractive media, and TV is an additive media. TV is pushing light, this is reflecting light. So it holds light differently. Color is fugitive. I had a copy of, what is the one? X Factor 98, where Deadpool's on the cover. And someone had it in a shop and left it up on a shelf, and the cover was, at least I could see it, and other comic book salespeople could see it. It was faded. It was faded, I would say 20%. Your average, like my brothers who don't, do completely different industries, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know that it was faded 20%, but I could see it. The comic book guys who buy and sell comics could see it. It wasn't even 10%. 10% I'm sure we could have both picked out, but this was a fat 20. And a 20's like a slap. It's like a ding on the corner, when it comes to price. It really knocks it down. Or the ruffled corners, So yeah, I have $1 billion science fiction franchise, and I'm already working on making the game and stuff. And my goal is to use these skills, to use what I'm building to promote everybody else whose work I like, who's cool. This is invitation only. You got to be cool. I don't care about your race. I don't care about where you're from. You just got to be cool. Racist people aren't cool. And I say racist shit, but that's like the militant black dude in Mallrats. You know what I mean? That's the brand. So I can be that guy and still respect Michael Jai White, not call him names. You know what I mean? I can respect anyone who's competent. If you're competent, now it doesn't mean they're going to respect me. They don't have to. So it doesn't go both ways. But yeah, everything's in the description, links and whatnot. See you guys tomorrow.